It's Sunday morning and welcome back to Face the State. One of the most watched races in the state is for mayor of New Haven. Justin Elicker defeated Mayor Tony Harp in the Democratic primary, but she is still running. Last week, Harp declined our invitation to appear with Elicker here on Face the State, so we pushed it off until this week. My emails and calls this week and last week have not been returned, and there were several of them. Mr. Elicker is with us here now, and we thank you for being on the program today.
Happy to be here.
And we're disappointed that the mayor did not want to show up here to talk about the issues in New Haven with you. But have you had any relationship with her since the primary loss? Has she spoken to you at all?
We've had a couple of brief conversations. Just being active in New Haven and going to a lot of events, we run across each other a little bit, and usually it's just a handshake and a greeting.
Was there a concession call after the primary?
Yeah, Mayor Harp did call me and congratulate me on winning the primary.
You know, she had originally, there was some talk that she wasn't going to run, and then she decided to run. What led to that? Do you know? You know,
that's a question for her, not me. I do think that being in public office for such a long time, the results of the primary may have been surprising. But I think that's a question for Mayor Harp and not me to answer.
I mean, the major Democrats like Senator Murphy and Governor Lamont have come to your aid and campaigned for you and endorsed you. What are you looking for on Tuesday? What are the signs that you're going to win on Tuesday in your judgment?
Well, I think the signs are already. As you know, most people that are affiliated with the party in New Haven are Democrats. And our campaign significantly won the primary, 7,100 votes to 5,100 votes for Mayor Harp. And that support was across the city and neighborhoods across the city. And my campaign has continued to knock on doors, talk with voters. I've continued to go to a lot of events and reach out to voters. And there's a lot of people that are excited for a new type of government that's more accessible, that's more interested in focusing on people that are struggling in the city. And that's a message that really resonates with people, and what we expect a positive outcome on Tuesday, but of course don't take anything for granted.
So to the undecided voter out there watching right now, Mr. Elicker, what is your argument that you're the better choice?
I think New Haven has a lot going for it, and you've seen incredible amounts of investment in the city, particularly in downtown New Haven, but there are so many people that don't feel like that investment is reaching them and improving their lives. And there's a lot more that government can be doing to make sure that everyone in New Haven has the opportunity to thrive. And I've talked a lot about that on the campaign, things like inclusionary zoning to make sure there's more affordable housing access, improvements in the public education system. My daughter goes to school in kindergarten in the Fairhaven neighborhood. What I hear over and over from New Haven residents is they want a government that's more accessible. I give my cell phone out to everyone and will expect my department heads to do that. A government that's more ethical and appoints the right people to the job.
Are there any changes that you'll make in terms of department heads, of people you think that just are in the wrong positions right now?
Absolutely, but I don't like to get into the weeds right now of who, because I think that gets pretty personal. But yeah, there will be some significant changes.
Should you win on Tuesday, 2 years from now, how will New Haven be different?
A lot of ways. The structure of government, where the people that are at the highest levels of government not only will reflect the diversity of the city, but will be much more responsive to residents. One of my major focuses, because it's something I hear over and over again in the neighborhoods, is about affordable housing, and there's some very concrete policies that we can implement to start us getting in that direction, where a lot of the new development will include a percentage of affordable housing. Another thing that I think is very important to the community is more access to free or low-cost youth programming. And then the final thing, it may not be the most exciting policy implementation idea, but we need to get our budget under control. We had an 11% tax increase last year. We've borrowed a lot of money, and that's passed along the debt into future generations, and we need to start righting that ship.
Do you see being able to cut taxes during your term?
I do not see being able to cut taxes, but I think that we can be much more proactive at not as aggressively raising taxes and looking for other sources of revenue and some efficiencies in government. You know, there's been some wasteful spending, but there are also ways that we can work with the state. As you mentioned, the governor and other state folks have endorsed my campaign to make sure that New Haven has more opportunities to be more fiscally responsible.
One of the complaints about New Haven, sort of an old complaint, I know that Mayor DeStefano used to bring it up periodically, he would say he was very jealous of Stamford and Hartford because they have these Fortune 500 companies. Mm-hmm. And while New Haven has many attributes, Yale and so forth, and the hospitals, they don't have any big taxpayers, which he wanted to get to the city. What are you going to do to try to do that as well? Because that certainly would help.
I think that I don't like to compete with our other cities. I actually think that Connecticut oftentimes we end up kind of disagreeing more than working together, not only with the suburbs, but with our other municipalities. To your point, New Haven has a big problem where about 55% of our property is non-taxable because primarily Yale University, some state properties, other universities. And I think that Yale University needs to do more to contribute to the city. Currently, we get $11.5 million in voluntary payments from Yale, but I think there's ways that we can encourage and work with Yale to get more support. Obviously, we need, it would be good to have more investment and more companies in the city. What we've seen recently is a lot more people moving back to cities, real estate development, and that helps increase the tax dollars that go to fund our government. And it also creates an environment where there's more people buying things in the city. We need to continue making New Haven an even better place to live so that we're encouraging investment. We've got to do that in a way that also allows people that have been living in this community for many, many years to benefit from that kind of investment.
What is your view on expanding Tweed New Haven Airport?
I think that it's important to expand the airport as long as we address some questions. There's a question around sea level rise. The airport was flooded out a few months back because of a rain event. And if we're going to invest a lot of money in an entity that may not be around in 50 years, that's a real problem. And all the scenarios that I've seen as far as sea level rise goes, Tweed is actually gone because it's so low lying. The financial viability of the airport, the city currently subsidizes the airport, and I'd like to see a long-term self-sustaining financially viable airport. And there's some questions around community benefits to make sure people surrounding the airport are amenable to those changes.
I've seen those maps of the sea level rises and the projections for 50 years down the road. I mean, a lot of New Haven is gone.
Yeah. IKEA is gone, for example.
So what can be done about it?
There's a number of things. So first of all, we should be updating the zoning code so that there's not new kinds of developments in areas that are susceptible to sea level rise. There's a lot of focus on adaptation of sea level rise, and that in some cases may be sea walls. There's been a lot of success in Europe, in Amsterdam, for example, around addressing this tension between low-lying areas that are densely populated and sea level rise and ocean issues. So there's a lot we can be doing. Much of this is going to require some foresight in making sure that we're not investing and developing in areas that are coastal.
Do you foresee you building any seawalls while you're mayor? Is that something that is a top priority?
I think that, I wouldn't say that's a top priority, but I think that that's something that we need to be concerned about, and we need to make sure that we're not developing along the coast. You look at, for example, the section along Long Wharf. There's a lot of vulnerable infrastructure there. We have a high school. We've got, just on the other side of I-95, the train station that is actually in scenarios flooded. So there's a lot more we can be doing to make sure that we're addressing those issues.
Justin Elicker, he is the Democratic nominee for the mayor of New Haven. Best of luck on Tuesday, and thank you for coming on the program today.
Thanks for having me.